Welcome to Loom the History. This is the second installment of a multi-part series exploring the rise and the fall of the Persian Empire from Cyrus and Darius to Alexander and beyond into the modern era. Today we'll be looking at Cambyses' inheritance of the Persian Empire and his challenges. After the death of Koresh in 530 BCE, Cambyses inherited not just a throne but a political experiment of unprecedented scale. He ruled over a vast and diverse imperial system, still in the process of consolidation. The transition itself was a test. Could a dynasty, not merely a great man, command obedience across such immense territories? Cambyses had to preserve the empire his father built, while proving that Persian power could continue beyond the founder's personal charisma. After inheriting the throne, Cambyses did not retreat into caution. He pushed the empire south into Egypt, one of the most ancient and symbolically powerful civilizations in the world. The conquest extended Persian authority into Africa and transformed the empire into a truly multi-continental power. Egyptian incorporation brought extraordinary prestige, but also new complexities, new traditions, new elites, and a province with deep cultural identity and its own memory of kingship. Persian rule now stretched across land so varied that military conquest alone could not guarantee cohesion. Although Egyptian traditions and sources later reflected a complex and somewhat hostile memory of Cambyses' rule. By 522 BC, the victories continued to come in, but those victories concealed instability. During or after the Egyptian campaign, Cambyses died, and with his death, the empire entered one of the most dangerous moments in its history. Leadership became uncertain, succession was contested, and confidence in the central authority weakened. The empire had expanded so dramatically under Cyrus and Cambyses, it suddenly stood exposed, vast in its size but vulnerable in structure. Beneath the surface of the conquest, cracks had already begun to form. And in that chaos, a new ruler took throne, identified in the traditions either as Bardia, brother of Cambyses, or as an impostor named Gaumata. The uncertainty mattered as much as the event itself. Whoever he was, his sudden rise destabilized the political order and alarmed the Persian nobility. The empire was no longer simply facing a succession problem, it was facing a problem of identity, legitimacy, and truth. And then there was Darius. Darius rose not as the obvious heir, but as a man who would claim to restore order. Backed by a cohesion of Persian nobles, he overthrew Bardia and took the throne. His authority had to be built quickly, through force, political alliance, and a persuasive narrative of rightful kingship. Therefore, Darius presented himself as the legitimate ruler who had defeated falsehood and rescued the empire from chaos. But his claim, powerful as it was, did not immediately secure obedience. Between 522 and 518 BCE, the empire did not quietly accept Darius. Province after province revolted, testing his rule and exposing how fragile imperial unity had become. Darius spent years in continuous warfare, suppressing rebellion and reasserting control over lands that only recently had belonged to the same empire. These campaigns were brutal. They were proof of his kingship. He did not merely inherit an empire, he had to win it back. After 518 BCE, once the revolts were crushed, Darius shifted from survival to construction, reorganized the empire in a durable administrative system, appointing officials, structuring governance across regions, strengthening communication, and creating mechanisms for tribute, tax. And under him, Persia ceased to be merely a machine of conquest. It became a functioning imperial order. Where Cyrus founded and Cambyses expanded, Darius structured the empire. Darius understood that administration alone was not enough. An empire of many people required a language of authority that reached beyond battlefields and palaces. Through royal inscriptions and monumental declarations, he presented himself as the rightful king, chosen and supported by a higher order. His words were carved into stones across the empire, statements of lineage, victory, divine favor, and political meaning. This was not just record keeping, it was the construction of imperial belief. Persia ruled not one people, but many languages, customs, religions, and political traditions that existed across an empire of immense scale. And rather than erasing these differences, Persian rule often worked through them, allowing local systems and elites to remain in place under imperial oversight. This balance between central control and regional flexibility became one of the most defining strengths of the Achaemenid system. By the early 5th century BC, Persia had become more than a kingdom and more than a conquered network of lands. It had become an imperial idea, structured, legitimized, and expansive. But the larger the empire grew, the more it invited resistance at its edges. Between 520 to 513 BCE, having stabilized the empire, Darius resumed expansion. These campaigns extended Persian authority across frontier regions, securing borders, protecting prestige, and integrating distant territories into the imperial system. Expansion under Darius was not simply opportunistic, it was strategic. The empire's size was now linked to its security, and the king's authority was reinforced by demonstrating reach across the known world. At its height under Darius I, the Achaemenid Empire stretched from Indus Valley to Aegean Sea, arguably the largest empire the world had yet seen. During its peak, Achaemenid Empire, or Persian Empire, had 4 capital cities across its vast territories. The first was Susa, the primary administrative center and winter capital. Second was Persepolis, the ceremonial capital established by Darius I. Ecbatana was third, summer capital, used by kings and the former Median capital. Fourth was Babylon, the major administrative and political capital of the western portion of the empire. And then there was a fifth. The last one was Pasargadae, the first capital established by Cyrus the Great. All these capitals symbolized imperial unity through architecture and tribute rituals. By the late 6th century and early 5th century, Persian power crossed into Europe, especially into Thrace, marking a major geographic and strategic shift. Once again, the empire's ambition stretched decisively beyond Asia and into continental space. These advances challenged the balance of power and brought Persian world into direct contact with societies that would not easily fit within its imperial patterns. Among them were the Greeks. Between 500 and 493 BC, in the Greek cities of Ionia, resistance broke out into open revolts. These cities, strategically vital and culturally distinct, challenged Persian rule in a crisis that was both military and ideological. The revolt was dangerous precisely because it emerged from within the empire, while also drawing in forces beyond it. Persia ultimately suppressed the rebellion, but the conflict revealed something new. Not all subject population could be governed by incorporation alone. Some frontiers were politically combustible. Between 493 BC and 486 BCE, after crushing the revolt, Darius reasserted Persian authority across an empire stretching from Europe to Egypt. This was Persia at its operational height, vast, interconnected, and administratively functional across extraordinary distances. Roads, communication, tax, governance, and royal ideology all worked together to sustain the system. The empire appeared immense, ordered, and secure, but strains already existed beneath the surface. When Darius died in 486 BC, he left behind the strongest imperial system Persia had ever known. But he also left behind an empire so vast that maintaining it would require not just power, but constant control. Stay tuned for the next installment, where we explore how Xerxes inherited the Persian Empire and his invasions into Greek city-states, and how the political instability crept into this once stable empire.